Okay, hello, hey, Alaska, Alaska, we love you, just like a rock band. My name is Matt Kirby. I'm going to be doing a presentation for you guys on creativity. Thank you all for being here. We at MoxieBox had a great time last year coming to the show, and we wish we could be there this year. We all wish we could be together, but we're all doing the best we can. So appreciate you being there now and tuning in. So everybody has been muted now, and at the end, I might open up the mute to do a little Q&A, maybe a 5 to 10 minute Q&A afterwards. If you guys could just give me a thumbs up on the reactions there on the bottom right-hand side. Give me a thumbs up if you guys are hearing my voice okay. Okay, great. So I've got a fair amount of slides here. I'm going to go, but don't worry, I'm going to go over it quickly. And I've got this presentation is on the website, MoxieBox Art. So you can check it there, and there are exercises as well. So I'm going to go ahead and bring up the presentation. I'm going to share the screen. And we will get started. Put it in slideshow mode. Okay, so creativity is a lot like life. It's a huge part of life. It's a very complicated and far-encompassing subject. But just like life, you have to get out there. It's a road. You have to go down the road. It's a participatory sport. Just nothing's going to come to you. Fairy godmother's not waiting to drop something on your door. You've got to get out there. Just like the 4 L's: live, laugh, love, and learn. My name is Matt Kirby. I used to be a STEM major, or I used to be an engineer. 1996, had a conversation with my family, who was a better writer, F. Scott Fitzgerald or Ernest Hemingway. From those humble beginnings, from that question, I looked at the universe, I listened to the clues, and I was able to listen to the pattern, and I was able to get apples to apples in about a minute, thinking about the question and the answers. I did not intend to invent a game. It just sort of happened. I wasn't a game guy, but it just sort of happened. Because I had an open mind, and like I said, I listened to clues. I ended up developing the game, sold the game, got royalties, still get royalties, and was able to quit my job. Now I go to classrooms, talk about the power of creativity, about ideas to kids. I work for MoxieBox. We make a great homeschool art project in a box, a monthly subscription box. And I do presentations to public kids and private kids, homeschool parents, and I'm doing some R&D stuff as well. So I was able to quit my job and become a member of the creative class, which means to be able to get paid to make ideas. And if I can do it, you can do it. That's for sure. Got 3 kids. All of the kids that we had went through what I call the mutual fund of education. That is, we did kind of everything. We did public and private school. The private schools, we've done all sorts of different kinds. Waldorf and Montessori and lots of homeschools. So understand the needs of homeschool parents, what we went through, what you're, I'm sure, going through. I just want to say thank you for being a homeschool parent, for putting in the time and the effort. It's a lot of work, and your kids are better and society's better for the passion and the effort that you are giving. So here's to you. I appreciate that. Creativity is a lot like this grid. In between the grid are gray dots. As soon as you look at the gray dots, they're gone. And that's what an idea is. You can't really pin it down, but you know the processes are taking place in your mind. And as soon as you try to pin that down, it goes away. People respond to creativity always. People respond to content always. People have an insatiable need to consume content. And maybe for once, take your child role model and create some content. Wouldn't it be cool to create something instead of always consuming it? As far as creativity goes, process is pretty divine, and this is the number one skill that number one skill that all companies want. This is the attribute. They want the flexibility. They want the open-mindedness, because it's such an unstable world out there. They don't know what's going to happen, but they need that skill in their employees. They're hiring more humanities majors just because they have that good liberal arts background, allows them to sort of see the forest through the trees. Creativity is the skill now, and even more so in the future. It is the life hack for the future. It should be taught as mandatory on all levels. It's going to get you ahead in life before more than anything else. The bad news is it's already happened. This is an old slide, but your future job is being outsourced. That has certainly happened. There's really no more jobs left there, but in the future, there's a study that roughly 40 to 60% of the jobs in the future are going to be gone. They're going to be taken over by robots and or automation efficiency. And nobody knows how this is going to go. This is sort of a macroeconomic experiment. But one thing's for sure, if the job that your child is waiting for probably ain't going to be there. And the only job that might be waiting for is the one that he or she invents. America was built as a creative act for creative people, by creative people. People, men and women of the Enlightenment. We are the fruit of the Enlightenment. The system was set up for people to create and bring ideas to the market. And you are not really participating in the true American process till you are bringing an idea to the market or working for yourself. This was set up, built, designed, structured for people in America to bring in their ideas. It's in our blood. Creativity is in America's DNA by far and away more than any other country. And this country needs you badly. We have got a lot of problems. And creativity is probably the only thing that's going to solve a lot of them. People need to be franchised. People need to feel like they have a voice, that they can express themselves, that they can see the future. All of these things are dealing with creativity. This country needs you, and more than that, it needs your children in the future to be as creative as possible. It might be the only way that we can get out of these problems. You need to nurture your children's creativity now. So I've got 12 tools here. That's a lot of tools. Some are more organic and easy to understand than others, but I'm going to go through all of them. But don't worry, it'll be quick. Tool number one is mindfulness. I can't have a thing on creativity without having some kind of thing on mindfulness. And all that means is being present in mind. And all that means is you don't have too much chatter, disruption, loop of distraction going on in your mind, that you're able to sit down and that you're able to cleanse your mind and be able to accept, to understand, to accept and work with ideas as they come in. This is the equivalent of this person priming the canvas. You can't paint on that canvas until it's primed, and that's what you need to do. Speaking from a very much non-expert and amateur as far as mindfulness, but I'm not talking about being a guru or lotus position or working on your breathing. What I'm talking about is just to start, sit in a room for 15 minutes and chill. Listen to the room tone. Room tone is just the sound that every room makes. One of these far-flung days when we can all go back to the movie theater, sit in the movie theater when everybody's gone and just sit there and just look around and listen. Try to not think too much, but don't worry about thinking, and just be there and let your mind kind of rest. And you can do this in many different places, and you get better at this. And then you can maybe do some breathing or work on your closing your eyes and all that good stuff. But at the very least, just be able to be quiet and listen to your thoughts that aren't interrupted by all this distraction that you can have. Tool number 2 is being curious and observing. This is the same thing, same side of the coin. One leads to the other. So we give comedians we give them the license to think and do and say and observe things that nobody else does. So I think this is a good role model.
The donut hole. The donut hole. Let's stop right there. What a horrible little snack. If you want a donut, have a donut. Why are you eating the hole? It's such a freaky metaphysical concept to begin with. You can't sell people holes. A hole does not exist. Words have meanings. A hole.
Can I have the fudge cake?
Close your eyes.
Dad, I don't want to.
Now. Which letter is out in the exit sign?
The X.
What color is the vinyl?
What's final?
It's the stuff these seats are covered in.
Purple.
Maroon. Close enough. Manager's name.
Who?
She's wearing a name tag. The woman standing at the front door when we first walked in. You saw her.
Marie. Can I have the cake now?
How many hats?
Come on, Dad.
Sean, you want a piece of cake? How many hats are in the room?
Does a beanie count?
What do you think?
3.
You didn't describe them.
That's not fair.
Time's almost up, Sean.
One has a flower, the one the lady's wearing. One has a picture of some kind of lion on the weird guy with the crooked tooth. The last one is on the chef.
What about the beanie?
A beanie's a cap, not a hat.
So that is from Psych, and the first one was Seinfeld, just doing some comedy there. The point is, be a big eye. Look at the world. If we were here today, I would ask each one of you, when you got here, did you notice anything? Did you go a different way, or did you notice anything out of the ordinary on your journey? Are you looking at the world? Are you aware? Are you present at all? This is all part of the prep work of being creative. Is just notice the world. Be a big eye that looks at the world. Be like a comedian. See everything and make a comment on it. In the future, when we can go to the airports again and stuff, go to an airport and bring a journal and just write down the stories. There's always so many stories, or a bus terminal or something like that, where there are people, and just record. You're the eye, nothing else. You don't make judgment. There's no agenda. You just see. This chart, just a sort of a curiosity chart. The verticals, the green is curiosity. Horizontal is sort of stages in your life. Most people are kind of like the red. As you start off, you're the most curious. At the end, you're the least curious. You've seen everything. But most people are more like the blue. Once they get to where you are right now, married with kids, a lot of people will just pack it in and just sort of give up and not even look at the world anymore. And this is the time when you should be looking at the world. Be the green line. You've been through school and your parents and your peers, all of the development problems and all of the nightmares, and now you're kind of secure. You know yourself. You know who you are. This is the time. Be the green line. Be curious about everything. Find out about stuff. Do stuff. Participate. Curiosity leads to creativity. Curiosity leads to new experiences of all the senses. Those lead to rewire your brain. When you rewire that brain, you're going to get new thoughts. So just wondering about things will give you new thoughts. This is a great example. Richard Feynman, famous modern physicist, subatomic particles. He was in the cafeteria at Caltech and just saw plates for some reason. And he was wondering about the rotational inertia of the plates, worked out equations for no reason other than the fact to him, this was fun. He was insatiably curious. And he worked this out. And they said, why are you doing this, Richard? And he said, I don't know, it's just fun. No agenda. But this led him later to formulate what's now called QED, which is a subparticle physics theory, which we still use today. And he wouldn't have done it if he didn't already do this prep work, which he didn't even know that he was doing. Sometimes ramifications of just finding out about the world can be huge. Tool number 3, find and express your voice. Who are you? Do you even know who you are? If I told your kids, a lot of the big kids around in this room right now or whatever, one of their problems is they don't even know what they like. They don't know who they are. They don't know what they think about things. You need to be asking yourself questions. What do means thing to you? Why do you do what you do? Why do you believe what you believe? Knowing thyself, examining your life. Socrates there. Ask yourself tough questions. Find out the answers, and then go into an iteration loop and change things or not. But you need to be asking yourself lots of questions. And there are times when most of the day we are exposed to constant advertisements, and once in a while it's nice to be able to say what you think. Everybody's telling you to buy this, do this, be that, buy this, watch this, and once in a while it's time for you to say, hey, you know, it's my turn. And what I'm saying is not so much just a Yelp review for a restaurant, but time for you to say the big things about philosophy and nature of life, nature of children, whatever. Get used to asking yourself questions and giving yourself answers. Each one of us is a complete, unique package. Each one of us is totally different, brought up different, come from a different place, metaphysically, physically. Anybody who's got 2 identical kids knows those 2 kids are typically the most different kids you can get. Each one of us is, by definition, a universe to itself. This is kind of illustrated here in the relativity in this fabulous print by Escher, showing everybody sort of coexisting in some ways. These 2 people here next to this, they're using the same stairway, but they don't even know that the person exists. It's like they're on a different plane. This is kind of like how we are as humans. We're all on a different plane, and there's a certain level of agreement, of understanding how we see the world. But past that lowest level, we're all sort of living in a different world simultaneously with others. And just to illustrate that, of course, I want to do some apples to apples like I did with the kids. Answer this: which one of those 4 is the most cool? Which one of those on the bottom is the most useless? Which one is the most important? And on the bottom, which one is the most cute? This is just to illustrate the fact that I don't think one of you is going to answer the same question 4 times. The 4 answers, I'll bet you none of you got the same. Not 2 of you have got the same 4 answers, because everybody's different. Apples to apples is all about there is no right answer. It's about your logic. The judge chooses the answer that's best to the judge. And there can be whatever logic they want, but it is nice to be able to articulate that and understand, why do you think the way that you think? How do people see you? This is Van Gogh. He expressed the fact that he was volatile and stable, ready to blow. And how would you describe yourself this way? If so, would you articulate it this way, express it this way? Here's Frida Kahlo talking about how she's wounded as a deer. Would you do the same thing? How would you express the way you feel on the inside? Later on in his life, Picasso would say, when asked about computers, computers are useless. They only give you the answers. And what he means by this, of course, is the question. Picasso was our first ambassador of the 3 ambassadors I'm going to talk about. But it's about the questions. That's the important thing. And here's 4 questions from some artists. Upper left, what is mysterious? What is enigmatic? Unknowable. On the upper right, the Warhol, what is ordinary? What is consumerism? What is materialism? Bottom left, that's a Picasso. What is narrative? What is a story? What is tragedy? And bottom right, Dali there. What is rational? What makes sense? What doesn't? What is subconscious? What is conscious? These are all questions. Tool number 4 is about the lenses that you wear when you look at the world the first time, and manually changing those to give you a new perspective. This is best illustrated here by the famous poem, or the story about the blind men, the 6 blind men and the elephant. They all are feeling the elephant, they can't see it. And each one interprets what they feel as something different, whether a wall or trees or rope or a fan or a snake or a spear. And the profound thing is they're all right and they're all wrong. They're all right in that they see their channel. They're each one looking through a set of glasses, but they don't see the totality, the gestalt, the collective nature of reality. And this is true of us. We don't see it. We just see our little section of it. Sometimes all you have to do is just move yourself physically move yourself, or try to change that point of view from one to the other, and you'll see a solution. This person can't see on the other side of that blockage. All they have to do is move to see it. So I'm going to ask you 4 sets of questions to yourself. Answer the questions, A, B's, and C's. A, this reminds me of how suffering life can be. B, I wonder if she got into that jar. Or C, I wonder if they sold tickets to see her. Here's one. A, life involves a lot of conflict and tension. B, I wonder who's going to win that tug of war. Or C, I wonder if their argument can be resolved. A, I can relate to her invisibility. B, how can we not see her? Or C, it would be cool to invent a product like that. One more, last one. A, are humans just another animal? B, I wonder if that hippo is about to eat her. Or C, it would be advantageous to own a circus like that. So now, how did you answer these questions? Most of you probably had a mixture of A, B's, and C's. Some of you had just A's, or only A's, only B's, and only C's. The A answers, these were all from the Picasso side, from the arts. This is about free expression. There's curiosity, but it's more about expressing yourself, expressing the truths of the world. It's completely subjective. The B's are all analytical, deconstructing, all about curiosity, wanting to find out. And that's Picasso or Einstein and Feynman would be our ambassadors for that. And the C is all about enterprise, application, and profiting from it. And that's going to be Edison. So these are, what I'm saying is, these are the 3 different kinds of glasses that you can wear. And then when you look at the world the first time, you look from those glasses, and you always look. But what I'm saying is, okay, so you're looking at the world. As soon as you see those birds flying away and you're the arts, you think about how they feel. Then try to change manually in your mind to the other ones and think, well, why are they flying that way? What are they doing? So to think differently after that first impression, which I believe you really don't have a choice about. So just to talk about Picasso, Einstein, and Edison in 27 years, from 1880 to 1907, the amount of changes to the world, how we live, how we see the world was staggering. And I just recommend that you, with your children, look that year up, or specifically even in bigger periods, 1869 to 1925. Just the amount of discoveries were just awe-inspiring. So, of course, we're all collective. Some of us are A's, B's, and C's, and some of us are both. Here's a great example. Da Vinci, of course, on the left, the painting, and on the right, diagrams. This is both A and B. And here's more modern example, Apple products and Tesla. You got to be all 3. You got to be able to do some art. You obviously have to do engineering, and then you have to do marketing and entrepreneurship. So you can have all 3. And you don't need any of these time-trodden tropes you don't have to conform to this. You don't have to look or act like any of these guys or girls. No need for these stereotypes. Choose as you want. How do you want? You have a little column A, little column B, little column C. But the important thing is to try to manually change how you see the world occasionally, to try to jolt yourself into a different point of view. Just a little chart to kind of further articulate the differences. The arts on the bottom, the A answers, those are all about expression. How do you express the truths? There is curiosity, but it's more about expression. The STEM fields are the opposite. There is no expression at all. It is all curiosity. So if your child needs to express themselves, then STEM is maybe not the right field. And then the C's are sort of combinations. Medicine, law, and economics, more like the STEM, and entrepreneurship, That's much more expression like the arts. To further articulate, just to talk about the difference between arts and science, a lot of times when people they talk about creativity, they typically only talk about it in terms of the arts, where it's the discoveries people make in the STEM there's just as much creativity, if not more, in the STEM and technology fields. The arts are completely subjective, and they employ creativity. The sciences are completely objective. That is, it's not up to the individual, but they employ creativity. Here's the two big points. The arts are unformatted curiosity told through the language of expression. There are no rules. Unformatted curiosity, and the language it's told is expression. Science is formatted curiosity, basically observations, told through the language of mathematics. And that's it. A lot of times people get intimidated by the thought of a scientist or whatever. That's all it is. It's formatted curiosity through the language of mathematics. So when your child is on the floor counting how many ants go from A to B in so much time, that child is doing science. He is a scientist at that point. The goal of science is to predict the future. That is to interpret and or discover new laws of nature which allow us to know what's going to happen in the future. Curiosity is just the desire to understand the world around us, which has got to be the most basic desire that man and or woman has ever had. Tool number 5, imagination, intuition. Intuition is very much part of imagination. This is a wonderful George de Kierkegaard, one of the forerunners of surrealism. I'm a big surrealist fan. And here's our ambassador again, or our second ambassador, Einstein, with everybody's favorite quote: imagination is more important than knowledge. And why do we like this quote? Because it gives us a reason to feel like, hey, you know what? We don't have to be as smart as him to be able to still do stuff. And it's true. What he's saying is it's about imagination. That's what leads you to the discoveries, not about how much stuff you know. And he ought to know, because he did the thought experiment of all time. He, in 1905, from 1900 to 1905, if he had technology, he would have put it down, because he was on a train going from somewhere to Bern in Switzerland and thinking about what would life look like? What would the world look like from a beam of light if you were able to ride that beam of light? It's called a thought experiment. He did nothing more than think. From that humble question, he was able to basically invent theory of special relativity in 1905, the theory of general relativity in 1915 or 16, which absolutely reconfigured the way we look at the universe. And all of this from somebody sitting down and just imagining. That is power. That's what he means. Great picture here, candidly, of him and Niels Bohr, who invented one of the pioneers of quantum mechanics. They are imagining the unimaginable and trying to conceive of the inconceivable. It's a great picture. This is what you look like when you are using your imagination muscles. And this is something that you should be doing with your kids. It's just a muscle like everything else, and you need to use it. You need to go around imagining with your kid, or with, whatever you can do. Spend time asking, what if, what would? If this happens, then what? What's a different place, or a different time, or a different creature, or imagine something. Spend time with your children imagining. It's their muscles, and you need to exercise them, and you need to role model this for your kids. We talk about the positive aspects of imagination, which leads to discoveries, and the negative effects are also huge. During the 9/11 attacks afterwards, the authorities would say they could not conceive of an attack. That is, the plotters were doing all of their stuff in front of everybody's noses for like a year, and everybody saw it, the people in charge, but they could not put the pieces together. They could not see. They said it was inconceivable because they'd never had an attack like it before. They were still fighting the last war. And from that, of course, if they had been able to see it, and understand what was happening, they could have stopped it. People oftentimes in jails or bad situations will say that the only time that they get out is when they can imagine, when they can conceive in their mind, they have a vision of some other place, of a different way to live. But you have to see it in your mind. When you do that, then it gives them the path. And countries, just like people, have failures of imagination. And this is what countries to have war without anything else. Let's just do a war to solve our problems. This is how, literally, how World War I started. No one could conceive of what would happen. And World War I caused World War II. So that's quite a cost. Don't let your child be a cost. The failure of imagination is a terrible price to pay. Tool number 6. This is a subtle and very powerful tool. It's your own metaphorical, poetic language with the universe, listening with your own language. This is also about intuition. And this is letting yourself become a vessel to the universe. This is what I did when I invented apples to apples without even trying, is I was able to listen to the answer. And it meant something to me. I felt like it was a suggestion from the universe. And you need to sort of train your mind to be able to look at the world and look at all of the clues that the universe is providing to you at all the time. And each of these clues is different for every different person. It's a different language. It's kind of a heavy concept. So we talk about metaphors, the power of metaphors, because what they do is they change from one meaning to a higher level meaning, more poetic meaning. And we use them all the time. The word metaphor means to carry across, to take from one to another, one meaning to a higher level meaning. Room was a disaster area, knight in shining armor, $1 million. The meaning was a train wreck. Everybody knows when you say that. This is not true. This is not literally true. Yet we still understand what they're saying, which is there's more information in the use of a metaphor from one concept to another. Unless, of course, it's your kids whose room maybe really is a disaster. I don't know about that. So think in terms of metaphors, use metaphors, and see what the universe is trying to do to suggest things to you in metaphors. Here's some examples of a secret little language. 3 pictures, normal stuff. Left, stack of washers that's off, crooked painting in the middle, dice, and a pen. Level 1 is just what it is. Level 2 on the left, I need more alignment in my life. Things are not going according, I need to put things in order. Would you have had that thought, possibly, if you did not look at these things and then listen to the clues? On the dice and the pen, I have to work harder. What are the odds I'm going to finish? And then, you can keep going, poetic abstractions. The next level, level 3, reality can be crooked and hard to see. For the 2 there, and the dice would be, I need to work harder. I need to overcome all of this randomness in the world. And we with metaphors and the suggestions, they think of it in terms of levels. The orange level here, that's our level of reality. That's what we all agree. It's an agreement. We're all saying when that's a house, a tree, a people. When you start going up in levels of poetic metaphor and suggestions, meanings, they start getting muddled, and it becomes much more of a language that only you know, and you have to train yourself to spot. Train yourself to look at the universe through your lenses. This is just funny. There's a Gary Larson, Far Side, and I just love how the fact that no one slid through there yet. And of course, it's not going to stop them, but that they're so enthusiastic and they've got positive attitude. We're going to eat like kings. It's kind of gross, but I just think it's hilarious. Tool number 7 is thinking in pictures, and all this is being diagrams. Sometimes a picture is more than the sum of the words. There's more meaning. Here's an example. This was a storyboard of a video concept I was going to do. You don't have to, obviously, right here, you don't have to be Da Vinci. We're just talking about being able to illustrate concepts, just like this. You have words, you have pictures, but it just helps to think in terms of visual modules, what I call just little little clumps of information. Back to our friend Feynman, when he was in the 50s and 60s, they were discovering new subatomic particles all the time, and it got to be a complete disaster because it was so complicated. They couldn't figure out how the interactions between one particle and the other, what would happen before, what would happen after. And his genius, he came up with this diagram. It's called the Feynman diagram, which is a shorthand notation to describe what happens to one and what happens to the other. And this led physicists to be able to formulate the standard model, which is what we have today. And it was Feynman's ability to synthesize to a diagram that led to a huge discovery. To that end, if I ask kids to draw this in 1 minute, what do you think they're going to do? Most kids are going to start in one corner and they're going to finish that corner. And they're going to the next one. Of course, they're not going to get it done. And of course, this is what I'm talking about you need to do. And this is what you need to do with your ideas. That is, go rough. Start off just on the outline and then dial it in. And that's what I'm showing here. It's the larger diameter is just a more broad concept. And over time, you add complexity and you develop the idea and you think about it more and it becomes more relevant. And then at the end, you've really got it all dialed down, but you're not worried, intimidated that, oh, it's not perfect. This whole perfectionism thing. Just to have it, just get it out, get it on paper, get it out there and see what happens. Tool number 8 is the classic, I think the most classic definition of creativity, which is to connect things, to combine. We talked about modularizing before. This is elements and compositions, connecting things. Good example here on the left-hand side. If you just looked at the star field without the blue lines that connect the stars, you don't know what you're looking at, most people, unless you're a real pro. It's when we connect the dots, when we connect the stars with the lines, now we've injected meaning. That is, the connection is the meaning. Now we look at the left and know that's the Big Dipper. This is true as well with compositions and with elements. So the point is, it's the connections of the elements that matter. It's not even more than the elements themselves. The way you really are looking at the world is through connections. And to think in terms of modules. The Beatles did this with some of their stuff on In the Day in the Life and other songs like this. Paul would write part, he couldn't get it, he wouldn't get, Paul would then, or John would come in and write the other part, and they would just literally meld them together. And people would think like, this is an incredible song, but it's really just two modules being welded back together into one thing. And this is what you should be doing. And this is an example here in the Tinker Toy is my favorite toy. The ideas are the round things, the connections are the shafts, and the creation here on the right, probably the person did not envision it. They just had the modules and then they connected them and it sort of presented itself. Nature presented itself to them. That's what creation is. And you're using the concept of modules to do this. Here's just an example. Many people have seen these kinds of things for the literary types. These are just concepts. They're not even necessarily full sentences. An orphan girl named Lena who was looking for all of her birth parents. A rainy day where nothing happens. Electric grasshoppers. From longer sentences to just concepts. Just write them down. You don't need to have a story. You just need modules. And then, I'm sure you guys have heard the thing, throw them up in the air and then put them together and see what happens. This is also true with pictures. We talked about thinking in pictures. So here's an example of diagrams, inventions, concepts. Think in terms of pictures. Simple modules. Put them together. And like I said, meanings are derived from the connections of things more than the things themselves. To truly understand something is to relate it, compare and contrast it with other elements. Here's an example. We've got 6 elements here arranged in a circle. The implicit meaning is what? That they're all the same. They're all equidistant. All I do is change one of the elements. Now we've got everything revolving around the Earth. What does that mean? Now the Earth is the center, the most important thing. Change the Relationship changed the meaning. One more time, left to right, bottom to top. The earth is the most important thing, and the Skylab there is the least, just by arranging the elements. And this is something we can do with disparate items to lead to these meanings. Put things together you don't normally put together. You got the dolly there, the lobster telephone. On the right, Andy Goldsworthy takes nature and imparts order, mankind's order upon it, and creates this pattern. Bottom left, the thing that freaks everybody out all the time. All you're doing is you're just taking fur and putting it on a cup and a saucer, changes the meaning entirely. And the very enigmatic and evocative wolf table there on the right. All these people did was take one thing and put another thing together, and it changed the meaning completely. Here's something I do with the kids. They love this experiment exercise. All I'm doing is I'm making a matrix out of things in the world, concepts. You can do this yourself. Make whatever matrix you can. When it's done in a matrix, it's easier to see the elements that come together. And I ask the kids, okay, just throw out some stuff. Let's put things together and make a product out of it. And then, at least two things. And then they start slow. And then by the end, I have to say, no more, no more. So like a dog and the movie and light, you can make a harness for a dog. You can take a picture of it, video of it at night because it's lit up now and the cars won't hit it. Maybe a fork. And the book, you can make a bookmark that is also a fork, or a computer and a chair. The chair is the computer, or the computer is the chair. A kite and a car. Well, there you could maybe add to your MPH, miles per gallon, by attaching a kite to it and having some lift on it or something like that, right? So the point is, you're just combining these things you don't normally combine into something you can do to jumpstart your ideas. Here's an example of you don't even need to make these things up. You just use your old apples to apples game and just deal out the cards. And what have I done? I just dealt these sort of randomly, and you get flying monkeys riding a horse on Elvis Presley are risky. Luxurious bats are playfully playing with Darth Vader. Cuddly beetles are arrogant girlfriends. So here's ideas for stories or concepts, movies, whatever. Sorry for scratching. So you can just use your apples to apples game. Tool number 9 is just play. You can't, just like you can't have something about creativity, about presence of mind, you can't also do it without imagination or playing. What is playing? A lot of times parents don't even know what is play. Well, play means what is fun to you, do that. Fun for the sake of fun. No agenda and no expectations. Their kids don't need a lesson in this, you do. But do this, role model this for your kids, and do this with your kids. Play for the sake of play and pleasure, that's it. Just like Richard Feynman did when he was doing the plates. That was play for him. So see what happens. Do you have to give yourself a license? What do you need to be able to give yourself to just have some fun? That is an absolute tool of creativity and leads to discoveries. So I did talk about tool number 1 is mindfulness. And now here's the opposite. Here's where I sound like a bit of a hypocrite, but the point is you can have multiple concepts at once. I trust you guys. You guys are mature enough. So this is what I call anti-meditation. This is something I do. I do more of this than meditation, which is I have a large 27-inch iMac, and I have a lot of screens up because I just like to look at stuff. And I have a lot of Wikipedia and videos and all this kind of stuff. So do that. Have all this stuff up. Have no agenda other than just curiosity, and just bump around and see what ideas come to you. But don't spend too much time there. Don't spend too much time on some page or some concept. Just sort of let nature guide you into wherever you need to go. And then don't think about it, just let it go. And these things are going to germinate little seeds in the background processes in your mind. These little connections are going to be made, and you're going to start getting ideas from just having fun. I call it overstimulation. Take 15 minutes a day, be mindful of 15 minutes a day where you're just the exact opposite. Just be flying in different directions and don't think about it. So, but these seeds will germinate. And to that effect, everything that you see and you say and that you do and that you've seen or experienced, you've opined about, try to categorize, try to classify, and try to archive it as best you can, because everything can be used for something else. Everything can be repurposed. Nobody really invents in a vacuum. Everybody invents. Stealing, borrowing, more than anything else, being influenced by other things. So the more you can retrieve from yourself, from your own file cabinet, the better. Tool number 10, inventing from need. And that's just repurposing. You're the only one who knows your world. You know what you need. And sometimes it ain't there. And sometimes you can just invent it because you know, I need a better mousetrap. I need a better loaf of sliced bread. Whatever it is, all you're doing is repurposing or looking at something. And you can just repurpose things. So the Scamper is a good acronym to use, which is just substitute, combine, adjust, modify, put to other use, eliminate, or reverse something. So just look around the world, in your world, and what do you need? How can you solve needs? This is like the C people, the C category. Apply yourself, solve needs. Sometimes creativity is just hard work. Everybody's got a good idea. Not everybody acts on it. And sometimes it's drudgery and you got to just do it. I love this. This is Apollo 13. I love this clip.
Gene, we have a situation brewing with the carbon dioxide.
We had a CO2 filter problem on the lunar module.
5 filters on the limb.
Which were meant for 2 guys for a day and a half. So I told the doc.
You're already up to 8 on the gauges. Anything over 15 and you get impaired judgment, blackouts, the beginnings of brain asphyxia.
What about the scrubbers on the command module?
They take square cartridges.
The ones on the limb are round.
Tell me this isn't a government operation.
This just isn't a contingency we've remotely looked at.
Those CO2 levels are going to be getting toxic.
Well, I suggest you gentlemen invent a way to put a square peg in a round hole. Rapidly.
Okay, people, listen up. People upstairs handed us this one, and we gotta come through. We gotta find a way to make this fit into the hole for this, using nothing but that.
So that's an example, great movie, Apollo 13, of sometimes it's just work and you got to get it done. You can use this as a metaphor right here. If you're ever at a low place, think about these guys had to do this, or those astronauts would not have come back. And that's a true story. And this is our friend, our third ambassador, Thomas Edison. Inventions, 1% inspiration, 99% perspiration. He ought to know. He's got thousands of patents and developed thousands of products. And you don't do that without passion and without drive. And somebody who isn't listening to the negative and just powers through it. He said of his failures, I haven't failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that don't work. So maybe it was the 10,001st way. And the point is, you don't get to where you need to go if you don't fail often. Failure, just all it is trial and error. And it says, hey, this is not the right way. Try this. So the word failure is a failure. There is no real failure. All failure is feedback that perhaps you're not going in the right direction. That's not bad. That's just where you are. It's just feedback. Tool number 11 is collaboration, and all that is getting together with people to create something that wouldn't have been created without the group concept. It's group consciousness. And the best example of this, of course, is brainstorm sessions. Brainstorm whiteboarding sessions. The most important thing is to have an open mind and that just shout out answers. This is about participation. You need to go and just say stuff, and everybody writes it down in what's called the parking lot. And you need to come back to it later. And you don't even think about it. You're just throwing stuff out there. And you're all using other people as springboards. There are no wrong answers. This is what collaboration is about. You use other people, and each one of you has something unique to bring to the table. So don't feel intimidated, and you're just as qualified to opinion about whatever as somebody else. The visual version of this is interesting. This was the Surrealists had a game they called it The Exquisite Corpse. Head, body, legs. The head was first drawn by an artist. Then he would extend the lines and fold it over so that the second person couldn't see what he drew. And that person would do the same thing and extend the lines. The last person would draw the legs. The piece, the paper was unfurled, thusly illustrating a creation that no one thought of. That's an amalgamation creation, and that's what collaboration is. This is a fun thing to do with your child. You can look this up, Exquisite Corpses, in the internet. Tool number 12, last tool, and this is this a tool or is it a state? Either way, this is the state that we all want to be in. This is why you became homeschool parents. This is what your children are trying to get at. This is what we're all trying to get at. It is the place to be, and that's passion. To summarize 1,000 business books, passion sells every day, every time, to everyone for all time. It just is the secret sauce. Anytime someone is arguing from passion or from something they really care about, they win. They typically will convince you because that passion is a magnetic, universal characteristic of the universe. If you can get your kid to be passionate about something, you're done. You can absolutely go home. And if you don't want to be curious, you don't have to. Just let your children take over, because they're going to be curious and they're going to be creative if they can achieve passion. Now, not everybody can, but it's important to try. If you're passionate about a project and you're in that project, the thing that people are going to hear them say is, I don't know where this thing is taking me, but it's really exciting. And that's the goal. It's not, here's how much money I made, here's what I'm called. Oh, I'm going to be so great. I'm going to be on Good Morning America. None of that stuff matters. I don't know where this thing is taking me, but it's really exciting. That's what you want, because you don't even know where you're going. You're being taken on a trip. That's what you want. Here's the only thing. We talked about failure. Here's the only failure right here. And that is the one resource you can't get back. Woulda, coulda, shoulda, time. You had the resources, you had the time, you had the inclination, and you had the idea, and you didn't do anything. That's failure. That's bitterness and regret. That's all there is, the failure right there. Woulda, coulda, shoulda. We all want to get to that bottom gleaming silver pool of creativity. And here's a great metaphor to explain it in a better way. How deep do you have to go? What layers of procrastination, powerlessness, jealousy, perfectionism, or fear of failure do you have to go through? Every one of us has those layers. Some people have thicker layers than others. But you've got to envision, you've got to use this metaphor to imagine yourself to drill through and get to that pool. And don't be alarmed that the world is negative, because it just is. It's not a personal thing. It's just the way that things are set up, especially today with social media, which is a nightmare. Just power on, drill on through, drill, baby, drill. Keep on trucking. And try not to judge yourself or your ideas, and just get started. Know that the world, the system is sort of just negative by implicit, just the way it's set up. We all want our idea to be done in a certain time. We want to be able to predict it. We want to say, in so much time, I'm going to be 3 of those green dots up on the line. It never happens that way. It's the orange line. You never know where you're going to go. You're on top of the world. You're not on top of the world. You're here. Now you want to just quit. Now going to go here, over here. And then at some point, those 2 lines are going to come together, but you don't know when, and there's nothing you can do about it. Hopefully, you are the one that is saying, I don't know where this is taking me, but it's really exciting. But you don't want to be the person that doesn't get started, because getting started is how you get to find out that there are now 2 roads. This person is intimidated and you got fear of failure or whatever, and they won't get started. And they won't see that path, because on the other side of that unknown wall, they won't see that that path breaks into two paths, and those break up into two paths, and those are going to take them somewhere they never even thought that they would go because they were afraid to get started. When you get started, the universe starts putting things in your way. This is like, I'm summarizing lots of philosophies and The Secret and lots of things like this, but you just got to get started and then don't even think about it and see what happens. The word mistake is a mistake. I've said this before. Don't let a fear of mistake keep you from what you need to do. Finally, the universal creation process here. You've got the orange prep work. We talked about tools 1 through 4 and 9. Mindfulness, observation, curiosity, expressing yourself, play, changing your point of view. The blue, then that goes into creation, tools 5 through 8, 10 and 11. Imagination, intuition, metaphors, combining, diagramming, collaborating, repurposing. And that, of course, now you have an idea, now you develop it, you apply it. Tools 10 through 12, develop, refine, test, and prototype. Finally, you document the whole thing, protect it, market it. And now it either goes back into the creation, or maybe you go back into some more prep work, and then the whole thing is repeated. So that's just sort of a relationship of those elements as far as the tools that I've set out. So I work for MoxieBox, and we have a email, info@moxieboxart.com. We would appreciate if you have any comments. Do you want to see us back? Do you want to see me back? Do you want to hear me again, or you want me to go away? Just kidding. Just feel free to go ahead and get on that email. And do you have any suggestions for future workshops, or what kind of stuff can we do with you guys? So with that, I'm going to stop my screen share, and we've got about 5 minutes on the Q&A. Now, I'm going to bring you all up. I'm going to unmute you guys. And then if it's too loud and cacophonous, then I'm going to mute you. And then you guys can all ask questions through the chat in the bottom middle feature with the little little voice balloon thing there. Click that and go ahead and type in some questions if you want. Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate it.